Hey, what's going on? Hope you guys are doing good. So here is the body. She has been all sanded up. Got my holes drilled for my 5-way switch. I'm putting a 5-way, not a 3-way. Routed out for the single coils. Filled in the holes that were in there for the humbucker, because I'm not going to be using a ring, so I don't need those holes there. So I needed something for the screws to go into and not come out through the back. Rerouted this over here. I've got everything squared off. Everything is nice and even on both sides of the trim, and all the binding is done. So right now what I'm going to do is start applying the epoxy resin. So I was watching some videos about doing an epoxy resin type of a grain filler, and they weren't using anything special. This was on a acoustic guitar build, which was completely from scratch. They did beautiful work on this thing. And they used regular, just 2-part epoxy resin to basically fill in the grain and level everything off really nice. So I'm going to do the same thing with this. Now didn't get any type of credit card advertisements in the mail, so I'm going to use a piece of plastic here, and I'm going to try to level this off and apply it by hand a little bit. That's what the rubber glove is for. So I'm going to go ahead and pour a little bit on this body. And a little bit should go kind of a long way. I'm just going to work it in with my hand, spreading this around. I don't want any type of runs or anything that's going to happen to where I'm going to have a hard time trying to sand this thing out, because what's going to happen is it's going to be a pain in my ass, and I don't really need this to be super thick on this body. So I'll just spread this around real nice and just kind of work it into the wood. And this will fill in all the grain and help with sanding as far as applying a primer over this as well. Now I'm not going to worry about, getting this stuff on the binding, because it's clear. It's going to fill in whatever cracks or anything that's around the binding. And being pushed into any openings of pores is going to really help this thing out really, really good. And this should help with having problems with cross grain as well. How primer or paint or anything else just likes to get sucked into that cross grain or end grain or whatever you want to call that. But this is not going to cause that problem, because it's really filling everything up. The wood's going to absorb some of this, Actually, wood's going to absorb a lot of this. You can already see it is absorbing it right now. And the reason why I've got wax paper down is so I can do this and not have any issues with sticking to the table. And the epoxy resin really does not stick to wax paper. I'm not really putting a real heavy layer of this on here. Just a little bit of a buildup and smearing it in everywhere. Almost looks like I'm putting a clear coat on this. Alright, so I can lay this down like this. It just shouldn't hurt anything as far as sticking, because there's really not much that it's going to stick to it. Spread this around real good. Yeah, it looks nice, natural. But I don't think the blue looks too good with this natural color, so. I'm not trying to flick you guys off, I'm just trying to spread some epoxy resin. Keep from any runs happening. no runs going around the edges, because that'll make it very hard for sanding. This epoxy resin is a pain in the ass to sand. That's why I like it. All nice and smooth. Alright, so the only thing left to do now with this is just let this cure up. It'll probably take a couple of days, even though it's a very, very thin layer. It's still going to take a little time to get this stuff to cure up. Once this cures up, I'll be able to sand this down, dry sanding, probably with 400 grit sandpaper, or maybe 800 grit, and then treat this as a sanding sealer and a grain filler. After this dries and cures, I'll go over it with some primer, epoxy primer, sand that down. That'll be wet sanding, and then go ahead after that and start doing some painting on this. Haven't figured out exactly what type of a design. I may not even do a design for this. This is going to get it's a pearl white, but it's more of like a gray side of white, and I'm thinking that this binding is going to kind of pop on that a little bit, and that's what I'm kind of looking for. The edges of the binding has a little bit of the figuring that is around the front of it with the perlite and how it looks, and hopefully, you know, this thing turns out pretty nice. I haven't done anything with the neck yet. That's next, when I'm able to move this off of my bench over here, clean up some of the supplies and tools that I have over here off the bench, and then start working on that next. So right now, bye bye for now.